Hi there, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty for Saturday, March 8th, 2014. The first news item that we have today pertains to Ukraine, and Ukraine is really the focus of our conversation today. This is from John Rappaport's blog, Ukraine, the End Game.
Yeah, John really takes the high level view here, and this is something that we need to keep in mind is that if what is the globalists' end game in any conflict? Well, what they want to do, John points out very clearly in his excellent, insightful way, is that every conflict is an opportunity to provide a new structure that sits above the conflict. So that's how the globalists erode national sovereignty. And once a solution emerges, as Henry Kissinger likes to describe it, then everybody will be happy with it. It will be an answer that will solve all the problems. But no, everybody will miss the fact that the problem was created that could have been avoided, and national sovereignty could have remained intact, but instead gets eroded. So we've got the Ukraine as an almost perfect scenario in order to begin an integration of the United States and the Soviet Union. And that's what, if you remember the thing that Charlotte Iserbyt talked about in the Ronald Reagan Education Administration, she was working in the Department of Education on how to comfortably merge the United States and Soviet Union's educational system. So here it is in not an educational system, but actual a clash of cultures here between East and West Ukraine, the East having the Russians, and the West, or the EU part of it, having the Anglo-American cabal EU structure, and it's very likely that there's going to be some kind of split in the country, or maybe even an integration. So that's the long view. That's where the globalists would like to take this. I personally would love to see Ukraine actually hold on to its sovereignty, and maybe that's a possibility if enough people wake up, but they've got the financial screws being put to them, and that only happens once they've already got enough control over the nation so that they know that they can't get out of it with their own creativity or their own resources. So it's kind of looking tough for the Ukraine, and don't get so bogged down in the details of it that you miss the bigger picture. That's what I wanted to point out here from John's blog.
And there is another aspect of the bigger picture, and that is the impact on the dollar with all these sanctions and threats being fired back and forth, and Russia threatening to stop using the dollar and dump their U.S. debt.
Yeah, Jim Willie is a big gold guy, and he is talking about the global currency reset and being a transition to a gold-backed economy, and he's talking about the fiat dollar people using the Ukraine as their last stand, or try to salvage something from their system, and he's describing how unlikely that is. And in a way, it's just a different way of looking at the same picture. This global currency will eventually emerge, not immediately, but the staging ground is something like what's happening in the Ukraine, where you get different forces and you get an economically driven conflict where the people are not able to control their own currency, and then a solution is presented, and it will be more stable because it will not be fiat, it will actually be backed by something, and that's the system that the world is headed to. And again, taking the very long-term big picture, that was always planned. All of this, the fiat currency, especially the dollar, that has became unpegged from gold in 1971, and really even before that, but that was the final tie, all the time the dollar has been floating and being buoyed up there through rigging of markets, through the short positions on silver and gold and all the commodities, being able to make the fiat currencies appear to be healthy. That all was preparing the stage for a transition to an asset-backed currencies globally. So this is all by design. First you create the problem, the fiat currencies, and then their eventual collapse, and then you offer the solution, which is asset-backed currencies. And the Ukraine may be the final last gasp for the effectiveness of the dollar. Supposedly Putin is laughing at the Western efforts to bring sanctions against the Ukraine because the Ukraine has real commodities. They have natural gas and pipelines of natural gas running through their country, and anything that is a fiat-based currency is going to have less and less effect now that the world really sees that rigged game for what it is.
There are so many complex politics surrounding this whole issue of Ukraine. Just, I think, partly because of the history of this country, people who lived through the Cold War and have a really clear memory of how we were all made to fear Russia. And this is, I find this really confusing in some respects. RT anchor quits on air, and she stated that she is quitting working for RT because Putin, she doesn't want to work for Putin, who is anti-American. And she feels that in working for RT, she's working for Putin. And this has been pointed out as being very hypocritical. And Paul Joseph Watson on Facebook, XRT host Liz Wall is not brave or courageous. Her resignation reeks of hypocrisy. And I'm at first I wasn't sure what was going on, but this really feels like a very political move, and I'm wondering if it's even going to be twisted and used to make people who have an appreciation for what the BRICS nations are trying to do appear un-American.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that also a power block is a power block, and BRICS has the potential to be just as abusive as the Anglo-American banking cartel. It's really only when we come to a true power sharing and a respecting of individual sovereignty of individual nations that we're going to really make progress. The thing that I see here on this host is a blurring of the lines between loyalties. You have a lot of Americans who are really admiring Putin because he's a strong leader and Obama's a weak leader, and you have here an RT host that is not wanting to affiliate herself with the Russian news networks, but here's somebody who doesn't like Putin's stand and affiliated with Russia. So the lines are getting blurred, and like I said earlier, it's almost as if this is the very early stages of the blending of the two cultures, where the Russians and the Americans can begin to see things through each other's eyes.
Well, I have to wonder here if there must be some agenda. I mean, when I loaded YouTube this morning, this was the screen that I got. Here's, under most popular or most watched, right here. This doesn't happen with Alex Jones videos. This doesn't happen with any kind of politically inconvenient videos. I have to believe that YouTube and therefore the powers behind YouTube really want to emphasize this.
Yeah, I think it's very important to begin to watch for things like this that are, now that the mainstream media has been virtually demolished, destroyed, everybody can smell their game from a mile away, that you get this manipulation, these techniques happening in the alternative media like YouTube, like RT, like, maybe even potentially InfoWars, if that, and of course some people believe InfoWars is already being steered by certain forces, but there's going to be more and more of that. But I think we don't want to. The key is to recognize whether there's a libertarian and freedom advocating principle involved. And here, it's just, I think it's really more fluff. It's about personalities, and that's what they want to sell to the masses and make into a fake controversy, and so that people get their feel good or their feel bad, not based on principles of liberty, but based on personalities and loyalties to culture.
That makes it easier to control people, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
So we can't be fooled. We don't be fooled again. No. And we have to analyze everything and filter everything, and as you said, see what's behind it. Follow the money, as
what did that famous man say? He said, "Fool me once, fool me twice, and we won't be fooled again."
Yeah, that was Michael from The Office.
No, I thought that's a George Bush quote when he was trying.
Oh.
He was trying to do the "fool me once, fool me twice," and he blew it, and then he said, "Don't be fooled again."
You're right. That was George Bush. So yeah, we don't want to be like Michael in The Office or like George Bush. We want to think for ourselves and be in favor of liberty and justice.
Yeah. And so, as usual, we remind you to see the world the way that it really is. See yourself in it. Walk your walk. You are the one you've been waiting for.